My goodness. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 681. And joining me, as always, is my co-host, Nathan. Nathan, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling tall today. I got a different chair. I'm sitting a little bit higher. I'm like, all right, let's get on. That's good. It's a good day.
We were just discussing you'll be in Portland soon on a Monday, which is our recording day.
Yes.
And I thought about saying it, and then I was like, I'll just start the show and then tell you in person. What's hilarious is honestly the best way to do that episode, even though we'll be like, you can come to my apartment, we could record a show together. Honestly, it might be best to like do it with you in the other room and we still remotely do it. Which is like a hilarious thought. Or we like sit next to each other right here. I just don't want to, my camera's like behind my desk and moving it would like, I would want to kill my, like, that sounds so awful to like try to reset everything.
Or hear me out.
It's theoretically possible.
Just give me that little monitor behind you. I'll have my setup and you'll just see the back of my head in your camera. And then we'll see the back of your head in my camera. I
like, that sounds terrible, but also hilarious. Like, I think it'd be so funny actually if you were just right there, but you're back to me and we were looking at each other on the screen. Like that's, by the way, possible. We could do that too.
We could do that.
It's insane, but
we can't rule it out.
I love the. Oh man. So anyway, so the answer, by the way, yeah, we probably will record the next episode like in person together. I just don't know how to configure it yet. Honestly, we could just sit next to each other right in this spot I'm sitting, but like zoomed out and next to each other. I don't know. We'll figure that out.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I'm like just surviving one day at a time. I'm trying to do as much work as I can in my real job and like not die. I don't know.
Hey man, that's the name of the game sometimes. Sometimes you just got to make it through the day, keep it pushing. Remember to appreciate the little things and then tell your loved ones you love them and then wake up and attack the next day. You don't always have 100%, but sometimes 60% is the 100% of what you have that day.
You asked how Texas was, by the way. I went to Dallas last week. I said I'd answer on the show, but then I realized I got to be kind of creative how I explain what I did because there are certain words YouTube doesn't like you saying it, and frankly, Apple either. So I went with my friends from Texas and made boomsticks go loud in a long room with multiple bays all next to each other. And I had the smaller boomstick, and the guy next to me had a really long, more powerful boomstick.
Interesting.
But I hit a target in the eyeball area from 36 meters away with a really small boomstick, and I was very proud. It was very cool. Yeah. I was like, awesome. And by the way, apparently I'm good at that. I didn't realize, like, I've been okay. I've only done that a couple times.
You got that thing on you. You keep that thing on you.
Hey, just saying, me and a small boomstick, dangerous. Just saying. And then immediately afterwards, we went to Texas Roadhouse, got a steak. It was just like the most Texas day ever. It was awesome. Had a lot of fun.
Man, they say you can't have fun in Texas anymore. Yeah, you can.
And by the way, I went for sales training where they like teach you a bunch of like little, basically just reminders about how to do sales properly. One sales call today in the morning, sold it on the spot. By 11 at a sale already. Like within
that's what
like
I'm talking about.
It was awesome. I was like,
maximum
that's how you get back from a trip,
baby.
There we go. So I don't know. Texas was good to like give you a little roundup of how it went. How are you, man? How's life? I know we'll get into football. I'm sure we'll talk about the biggest, most entertaining and back and forth, really impressive, combative thing we saw all week. We'll get to that in a moment. But just how are you life-wise? How are you doing?
Well, I know we wanted to talk about that and show up, but I'm not going to put that video of my cats out there in the public like that. I just won't do that. No, but good. I'm excited to head home for a couple days, see some family, see some friends. Other than that, things in the Bay Area are starting to settle down, find a routine out here. We're good.
Yeah, Thanksgiving's next week, which I knew that distantly, but I didn't really think about it. I'm like, I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Dude, it'll be, I think, I'm going to probably not, I feel bad saying this, but it's honest. I kind of want to just stay home on Thanksgiving. I don't even want to go to the family thing. Like I see them all the time every week for family dinner. And I'm like, there's 3 football games on. It's my first one with Molly. I kind of want to just, am I a bad person to want to stay home on Thanksgiving? I feel bad, but it's an honest reaction. I'm like, I don't want to go out.
Yeah, it can be honest. I would say most people probably don't have that. or a lot of people don't have that, whether that's a family dinner or whether that's the opportunity to have a blessed Thanksgiving. So don't take it for granted. But honestly, sometimes, sticking with your main thing, relaxing at home, having your own special, intimate kind of night or evening for those holidays can be really awesome too.
You're right, though. Most people don't see their family more than once a week, and I see them at least twice a week. So I'm like, like another dinner that's going to make me feel like bloated and tired. I don't know. I'm good.
Hey, man, just not too many mashed potatoes and you're good to go.
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app. Use PrizePicks while you watch NFL games this fall, because making picks makes watching games more engaging, and you could turn something like $5 into $50. PrizePicks offers quick and easy deposits. You can even use Apple Pay. To put your skills to the test in daily fantasy, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS using code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS using code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. Let's talk about, there was one thing this weekend that happened that was, it was just such a thin margin. I was shocked at how close this thing was. I expected a blowout, and instead it was just so back and forth and so close, and the outcome in Dallas, Texas blew me away. Mike Tyson beat the living tar out of Jake Paul. That's what happened, right? Did you watch that? It was so disappointing, dude. I just, at one point I felt like guilty watching. Like, this is elder abuse. It was terrible.
Well, at first I thought you were talking about Chiefs Bills. Then I thought you were talking Steelers Ravens. And then you said in Texas, like, oh, he's talking about the Cowboys getting blown out. And then you went all the way back to Friday night. What a roller coaster you took me on.
I was hoping you wouldn't know where I was going. Like, it was just the audience too. It was like, I don't know what he's talking about. No, it was, dude, the Tyson fight was terrible. It was like, I don't know where to put it in the show, so let's just talk about it first. It was a total letdown.
It was a letdown, and especially after he had the Serrano fight right before, where those ladies were absolutely going after it. Juxtapose that to what we had with Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. It wasn't great. There was probably some writing on the wall that something like this was going to happen. Thankfully, most people probably have Netflix. So I think probably the people that are really hurting is anybody who decided to actually put good, earned US dollars on it, or Bitcoin, however you choose to bet. I don't know who your bookie is. But that's probably what upsets people. You didn't get a legitimate fight or a chance to win your money. But, I mean, it's a spectacle. It's a show. The Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders were there. Never a bad night if that's going on.
Molly said that fight reminded her of Aaron Rodgers' year with the Jets. Like, yes. You could have walked off into the sunset and said, "This is my final memory of you." But also, in fairness to Mike Tyson, like, the dude knew he wasn't going to, like, you could tell. Apparently, also, there was a contractual thing where, like, you couldn't do uppercuts, which is, like, I think would have really changed the fight. Like, you can only believe maybe it would have changed it. So,
he got
paid to not punch Jake Paul a bunch and got $20 million. Like, all right.
Hey, don't hate the player, hate the game.
I guess, man. I just was disappointed. I don't mean to linger on this, but I was like hoping. I got home from Texas on Friday. I remember leaving, by the way. I'm driving out to the airport, looking at all the traffic going into AT&T Stadium. And I was like, oh, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to land and watch the fight. And I did exactly that. And I was like, well, I was uncomfortable, like not in a good way. It was just,
After the first round was like, oh, okay, we might have something here. And then second round was like, Jake could actually probably kill Mike here. And I was sitting there, I was like, please don't hit his head in the wrong way. And all of a sudden we have a death on our hands on live television. And then after that, it was just, okay, these guys are coasting. So,
yeah. And his knee, like he couldn't move his legs, like truly, like he just couldn't. I don't know.
He lacked some mobility for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all I got. I wanted to share, like, at the top of the show. Friday was it was disappointing. I was like,
yeah, get it out of the way.
Also,
arguably more disappointing. Now we'll get to it later.
No, where are you going to go? What was most disappointing this weekend?
I was just going to pile on to the New York Jets. I was just going to keep piling on.
Hey, they're 3-8. They're crushing it. The Aaron Rodgers thing. He's saving them. They're going to win a Super Bowl this year. They got Aaron Rodgers. They got Devonta Adams now. They fired their coach who's going to solve everything. The Jets are just crushing it. Right?
Things are going so smoothly.
And ever since Robert Saleh, the defense has been better, right?
A lot better, yeah.
Yeah.
Arguably the best in the league.
Yeah. I hope you can sense our sarcasm, anyone listening. I can't believe I just love watching them fail and fail by like thin margins. Even sometimes you're like, man, like it's almost like they need a great quarterback maybe to win them the game at the end.
The fact that it's tragic just makes it even. I don't know if sweeter is the word because I never want to root against somebody, but it just again to me they use Saleh as a scapegoat, right? So to see them, the defense fall apart and everything else kind of fall apart behind it, it's weirdly gratifying. You're just like, yeah, we knew this would happen.
Another, how do I say it? I don't know it's interesting when blame gets put in the wrong place and you're like, I don't know that. And the Jets seem like the kings of that, like blaming the wrong people constantly. Oh, man. Like you look at Sam Darnold with the Vikings, you're like, well, he clearly was terrible, huh? Like he just couldn't play at all. If only the Jets had Sam Darnold, they might be happy this year. It's like so funny. It's like, man, but probably not. Institutional chaos. It doesn't. Yeah, but do you know any Jets fans personally?
I actually don't, thankfully.
Dude,
Shout out to being on the West Coast. I don't have to deal with them.
They're so miserable. Like you talk to them every week and they just, now I call my friend and he's like, shut up. Don't even talk about it. Like he doesn't even want to like go there.
Yeah. I do work with a Giants fan though. And it's been pretty upsetting for him. He's like, oh my God, Malik Neighbors. Yes. And now you're just like, man, but Saquon Barkley turned out to be really good.
Oh, I saw that clip today. The guy, the Giants staffer who was trying to convince Joe Shane to not like, he's like, are you sure like no one's going to sign Saquon Barkley that amount of money? And like, he's like the only one in the room being like, yo, like we should definitely keep him.
Hello.
Anyway, let's dive in. Do you want to start with Pittsburgh? Is that kind of where you'd like to go first?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go right there.
I got to watch what's become my favorite team in the NFL have a really unexpected, because look, I'm a fan of the Steelers. Didn't think they were going to beat the Ravens. I'm not going to lie to you. I was hoping for that. I was rooting for that. I was so excited watching it. But if you tell me, hey, they don't score a touchdown, they kick 6 field goals, and they beat Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, I probably wouldn't believe you. But that's what happened. The Steelers beat the Ravens 18-6 on Sunday. I've got a lot to say, but I'm curious if you have anything you want to start with about this game, because it was, for me, as a fan, I've got like so much to share, but I'm curious to hear from you.
Well, I think this game came down to 3 big things. First one was time of possession, which the Steelers won. They absolutely dominated time of possession, including in the second half when the Ravens only had 4 possessions, 2 of which one was a 3-and-out and the other one was an interception. Yeah. So you really only had 2 working drives if you're the Ravens in the second half. Next one was the miscues. Obviously, the missed field goals are a problem. I saw something about Justin Tucker kind of somewhat blaming the playing surface, but Chris Boswell didn't miss. He was lights out all game. We can't use that excuse. And then the next part, Lamar was held in check. This was arguably his worst performance of the year. I believe 16 of 33 from the field and under 50 yards rushing. He wasn't able to extend plays like he typically is able to. So you have those 3 factors. You win time of possession. You keep Lamar off the field. And when he is on the field, you're holding him from making those explosive plays. That is the exact recipe for victory. We saw a lot of teams this year try and outscore the Ravens. Not how you're going to win this game. Keep it out of their hands. Don't turn the ball over and just inch your way forward. And that's exactly what the Steelers did. As infuriating as it was for me, as somebody who was honestly really anti-Steelers to start this season, to see them win that way is infuriating to me, but also impressive knowing what they've been able to put together defensively and now a little bit of offensive accompaniment, if you will. Even though it was only field goals, you got points on the board.
It was funny watching with Molly. Lamar throws that interception in the 4th quarter, and she just goes like, gosh, this team is so carried by their defense. And you're like, yeah, like, and then it gets worse because Russ throws an interception on the goal line, and you're like, it's like, man, like this team, this offense is so frustrating to watch. It's like they were 0 for 4 in the red zone. The Steelers were. Yeah. Russ throws an interception on 3rd and goal. Where, by the way, Chris Boswell, their kicker, MVP of the game,
MVP, hands down,
18 points. 6 for 6 kicking field goals. Should have been 7 for 7, but wasn't given an opportunity at a 7th field goal because Russ decided to just play Dumbo ball and throw the ball into triple coverage on the goal line on 3rd and goal. I don't know what he's doing. It's like, well, I don't know what. Come on, man, throw the ball away. Live to see another down.
He's too much of a veteran to be making that play.
Well, the game came down to a 2-point conversion. The Ravens tried to get it. They didn't. They failed. And we could talk about that. I've got a little thing I want to say about that, but it shouldn't have come down to that. It should have been a 2-score game by the time the Ravens got the ball for their final possession. But because Russ throws that pick, it's not. And you're like, oh, I want to defend Russ. I think he's made the team better. And you can even like say, hey, well, you could have played Justin Fields, but Justin Fields was given an opportunity in this game. And in their drive to try to put the game away, he runs for 9 yards on 2nd and 10 and slides a yard short. And you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like even Justin Fields made mistakes in this game. I don't know, man. I love Pittsburgh. Their defense is obviously incredible. Derrick Henry fumbles in the second play of the game. Lamar is held in check. But let's be honest about what the Steelers did in this game. They kind of got away with one. Your defense played incredible.
They did.
I don't know that you can replicate that every time you play the Ravens. And at some point, you got to have offensive production. We're not seeing it out of Pittsburgh.
No, we're not. And that was something that was surprising. We thought if any week, a week that they were going to have a little bit easier time scoring was against this kind of porous Ravens defense that hasn't been strong in the run game and especially horrible on that back end. I'm trying to look and see here how many snaps Tre'Davious White played. I believe only 24. So he wasn't out there, a ton, but he's out there a pretty good amount for having just arrived in Baltimore. And maybe that made enough of a difference, allowed, the Ravens to kind of move around some personnel and get them into some better packages that were going to benefit them on that defensive side of the football.
Tre'Davious White made a great play. You can just trade it in. George Pickens has probably a touchdown in his hands, and Tre'Davious White knocks the ball away, like makes a play on the ball, CPR, claw punch, rip, and knocks the ball out of George Pickens' hands in the end zone. And you're like, oh, dang, that's just a
playmaker.
Maybe the ball could have had a little more trajectory from Russ to give him a better chance at a 50-50 ball, but Tre'Davious White made a great play there. And I think that's a play in the end zone that very easily could have been a touchdown without a better play from the corner.
Yeah, and so maybe we're going to see a better Ravens defense going forward. I would imagine that he's going to be involved more in packages. You'll free up Kyle Hamilton to play more of that true free safety position instead of being so much in that nickel spot where they've used him a lot to their advantage over the past year. So we'll see. Maybe the Ravens defense is getting better, and then on the flip side, if you're Pittsburgh, you've got to be able to be more efficient in the red zone scoring touchdowns. Again, we just said it. They got away with one here. Shout out to the defense. They did a great job, again, containing Lamar and getting him off the field. But we've still got to be able to score points. And that rings true for both sides. Did
Mike Williams, maybe I'm an idiot. Yeah, he did. He barely played in the game. No targets. He was I don't know what happened. I don't know why he wasn't really involved in the game plan. Basically, he wasn't a healthy scratch. He played like a couple plays, but I don't know why they didn't include him in the game. It seems like he couldn't take a couple shots downfield. Mike Williams, I don't really get it, especially when Van Jefferson has been so disappointing. Like he had a couple targets and you're like, guys, what are we doing here? Yeah. Why are we not including Mike Williams in the game plan?
Yeah, I think this goes back to the game script that the Steelers put together. They weren't trying to throw the ball. They're playing fullback. They're playing 2 tight end sets. They were really trying to, again, control possession. Najee Harris had 18 carries. Jalen Warren had 9. Typically, your backup running back is going to see like maybe 4 or 5 carries. So for Warren to, again, have 9 and Najee have almost 20, that tells you that there was a concerted effort to keep it on the ground, which probably meant that Mike Williams didn't need to be out there, and they were going to lean on the guys that had been more acclimated in the system, your Van Jeffersons, your Calvin Austins, and obviously George Pickens to kind of round out that receiving core.
There was another funny play. I think a couple things worked in favor of Pittsburgh. Number one, Roquan Smith, the best defensive player for the Ravens, got hurt, had a hamstring injury in the fourth quarter. That's not great. We don't love that. Mm-hmm. But it helped the Steelers definitely, I think, in their final drive as they run up the clock. But also, Deontay Johnson, who is a former Steeler, and if you watch this moment, the crowd in Pittsburgh went crazy when it happened. Deontay Johnson dropped a ball on the goal line, and you're like, oh, man. Whoa, they sure miss him. They're sure missing out on Deontay Johnson. Like it was a funny moment. He had an opportunity to basically put a dagger in his former team, and he didn't catch the ball. And you're like, ooh, that's rough.
I mean, he had issues with drops when he was in Pittsburgh. He obviously didn't have a whole ton of time in Carolina. And it's back to what I said a couple weeks ago. His skill set to me is duplicative of what Zay Flowers does. And since he's not completely acclimated in the offense, an offense in which his snaps are already going to be limited by the formations and the personnel that the Ravens have, he's not going to find a lot of success, I don't think, in this offense. He's going to get opportunities like that, few and far between, and he's got to make them if the Ravens want to continue to make strides offensively, shore up their attack in the red zone and not make it so Lamar dependent. If you think about some of the past games and some of these one-score games that they've won, it hasn't been super clean. It's been a lot of Lamar. Think about this against the Bengals and then as well as last week against the oh my goodness, who did the Ravens play last week?
They played and they beat the Broncos and the Bengals. So they beat the Bengals. You're thinking the Bengals. They had 2 games in a row against the Bengals that were 2 games. Their 2 most recent games against the Bengals are both very memorable and very insane.
Yes, here's the point being Lamar Jackson escaping out of the back of the pocket, breaking several tackles, finding a way to get the ball into the end zone, right? There's the big one against Cincinnati that kind of broke the internet, if you will.
Early in the year, yeah.
Right. So how can we have a more clean and efficient and effective offense in those clutch moments that isn't so Lamar Jackson, you need to make a special play for us? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I want to kind of round up something, be very clear. Lamar's best plays of the year this year were both against Cincinnati. The one early in the year where he escapes the sack and is rolling right and then throws his ball kind of back across the field in the end zone for a touchdown. And then last week, ironically, against Cincinnati as well, he's got a play where it's perfect coverage. There's no one open and he just avoids everyone and runs for this huge gain down to the goal line. And you're like, you could do literally everything right and he'll just force you to be wrong. It's almost unfair for a defense.
Yeah.
And yet in this game against Pittsburgh, Lamar, there weren't none of those plays. And I think what we learned in this game is without those 2 or 3 plays a game from Lamar, this Ravens team is not the same.
Yeah, and that's what the Steelers are going to make you do. They are going to make you earn every single yard. So whether that was playing quarterback spy, whether that was just being very intentional with their rush lanes, at no point were they trying so hard to get after Lamar that he was being able to escape up the middle of the pocket. They said, if you're going to escape, you're either going backwards or you're going out the side, and we're going to have relentless pursuit. And that's how you have to play Lamar. It's kind of like a what do you want to call a front 7 version of keep him in front of you. That's what you're trying to do. Safety is obviously trying to keep the receivers in front. Front 7 is let's just keep good leverage and keep him in front of us. If he wants to scramble and pick up 3 or 4 yards, great. But we're not letting him pick up 18, 20, 30-yard chunks that break your back on third downs.
And by the way, a guy they just traded for, Preston Smith, made a big impact in this game as well, helping with that containment, helping with getting pressure on Lamar. The Steelers at the trade deadline got, I think, a lot better with Mike Williams, who I think is going to make an impact here and there. And then Preston Smith, a similar player who's not a star. You're not going to build your defense around him, but he's going to add a little bit in the margins where you need him. And he did exactly that. Let's kind of look at the future for both the Ravens and the Steelers. The Ravens are 7-4. The Steelers are 8-2. Before we look at their schedules and kind of what we think is going to play out the rest of the year, I think is the Ravens team that could get to a Super Bowl. I hate to say this. I don't know that this is a Steelers team that can do that, even though they just beat the Ravens. I don't know that you can win with this kind of defense week to week for 3 playoff games in a row. Whereas having a dynamic quarterback like Lamar, he can't play like he did on Sunday. He's got to show up in 3 playoff games in a row, but he can do that. And I feel more confident in that happening than the Steelers defense, playing lights out for 3 playoff games in a row. What say you?
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting way to look at it. I do think, and we talked about this last week, Pittsburgh is capable of winning a playoff game depending on who their matchup is.
Oh, definitely.
Defensively, they're strong enough. But yeah, as far as making that Super Bowl run, unless we start to see some really positive things from the offense in terms of it clicking and being extremely efficient, not just, Russell Wilson. Yes, he had 3 touchdowns, but I leave under 2 under 200 yards last week. I'm talking about, 350 plus yards. Things are moving smoothly. And again, is that a lot to ask of an offense? And does an offense need to do that? No, but Super Bowl caliber offenses have the capability to do that to accompany their defense.
Well, let me just say, I don't feel confident the Steelers offense can have a big day when they need to. because we just have not seen that at all this year, not once. There hasn't been a single moment where we go, there it is, there's the game where you need 5 touchdowns and you did it. There hasn't.
Yeah, with the Steelers offense, it's been, that looked pretty good. Like,
we survived.
When you start using the word, that looked efficient. And you're not saying it like Jared Goff efficient. We're like, man, this dude is unbelievably efficient. You're saying it was efficient. It's just a really nice way of saying that was so supremely average out there that I don't even know what else to call it. Ravens flip side of things, if Tre'Davious White can be that, right, making those big plays in the red zone, and again, allowing Kyle Hamilton to be free and kind of allowing that front seven to attack with a little less worry about what's going on in the back end, then we'll start to see some really, really dominant wins from the Ravens like we saw last year. If and when that happens, I don't know. I don't think their run game, their ability to stop the run is superb either. I believe they're a bottom 10 defense all around. So, man, hopefully things can turn around with them. Offensively, I'm not worried. You're going to have some bad games. You're going to have some stinkers. It happens. It's in division opponent. I can let that go. But defensively, it has to turn around. It's almost kind of like the opposite for both teams, right? Defense and offense both have to get it going for either team.
Also, let's be very clear. The Steelers specifically have Lamar Jackson's number. He's got his lowest completion percentage, his lowest yards per dropback. He's 1-4 against them. Compared to them versus any other opponent, Lamar struggles against the Steelers. They play him twice a year. They know him really, really well. They've got a great defense, and they've kind of got his number. I don't think this is like a sign of potential problems for the Ravens moving forward. You just hope they don't play the Steelers in the playoffs. But also, I think 10 out of 10 times, this outcome doesn't happen every time. I don't know how often you can play Lamar Jackson and limit him the way you did. I'm sure it's confidence. I think it is possible that both these two teams do rematch in a playoff game. You play, maybe Pittsburgh plays Houston, the Ravens play, I don't know, whoever, and they match up in the second round. That feels possible for the Steelers and Ravens. I'm just not confident we'll see the same outcome a second time in a row. Although I will say, if you can get past a Steelers team, I think the Steelers, past a Ravens team, I think Pittsburgh could beat Kansas City right now. I don't know about, I'm not confident they could beat Buffalo. But I think it's possible the defense has a similar great day and slows down a compromised Chiefs team. And we can talk about that, in a moment. But as you look ahead to the Ravens schedule and the Steelers schedule we thought was pretty tough. It's, as you look at it, they survived their first really tough game against the Ravens. They play Cleveland next week. That's a pretty favorable matchup. Cleveland's 2-8. They got a 1.5 game lead. It's not likely, but it feels possible the Steelers win their division. But when you look ahead, they've got Kansas City, Cincinnati twice, the Eagles, the Ravens again, this time at Baltimore in December, the Browns twice. It's still hard to imagine the Steelers finishing the year 1.5 games ahead of Baltimore.
I don't think it's actually that hard, and it hurts my heart to say this, but after this game, my opinion of the Steelers honestly didn't really change, but my opinion of the rest of the division changed, which gives me confidence that the Steelers they can be in and hang with and certainly win a lot of these games. And again, provided the offense can keep making strides to get better, we're going to see that, right?
Yeah.
On the Ravens flip side of things, I went away from that just a little bit concerned, again, knowing that they don't have a great defense and knowing that now if their offense isn't going, they're really in some trouble. All it takes is you're just a little bit off, just a millimeter off for that day. Yeah, and that concerns me for the Ravens. Again, knowing that their defense can give up points. If the offense isn't clicking, they're going to have a tough time kind of closing out the year. They've got to play the Chargers. That's another great defense this year. Harbaugh's got those guys playing great. Philly, another great defense this year. Pittsburgh, again. Houston is a solid defense. So if that offense isn't moving, if Mr. Jackson, as Mike Tomlin calls him, if Mr. Jackson isn't moving the football, it could be scary for him.
I want to ask a really kind of painful question about the Ravens, because the way the game ended, it ended on a 2-point conversion. They line up for the 2-point conversion. They snap the ball. They run half a play, but we find out, Mike Tomlin called a timeout at the last second. It looked like Lamar was going to run a jump pass where he attacks the line of scrimmage, then jumps and dumps it off to like Patrick Ricard or someone like Mark Andrews or someone like that for a little pop pass, jump pass. That play gets burned because of the late Mike Tomlin timeout, which, by the way, great play, great like gamesmanship there to make them burn a play. They got it. That's their best play call in that situation. Now they got to go to their number 2 play. The number 2 play didn't quite work, and we can talk about
something
that.
Happened. Something happened.
What's interesting to me, I guess, is look, I saw earlier in the game the Ravens get 1st and goal on like the 3 or 4 yard line, and them scoring a touchdown was inevitable. They handed the ball to Derrick Henry. He powered his way into the end zone. It was like he like landed 5 yards into the end zone, and you're like,
hard dude to stop.
We cannot stop this guy on the goal line at all. And so 2 play calls were made in a 2-point conversion situation. You need 2 yards. That's it. You've got Pat Ricard. You've got this awesome offensive line, and you've got a tank of a man, Derrick Henry. I get it's Lamar's team. You want to put the ball in Lamar's hands, maybe, but do you think, with hindsight, maybe the ball should have been in Derrick Henry's hands there?
No, I would have still trusted that with Lamar. I understand the framing and why that makes 100% sense, but I am giving myself the best opportunity to score, snapping the ball to Lamar Jackson and allowing him to make a play. I don't know if a sprint out is the right play, right? Because once you get your momentum going laterally, it can be really tough to get going forward. I think I said that a couple weeks ago. I can't remember who messed up. I think it might have been the Chicago Bears. Messed up a 2-point play. Anytime you start moving laterally, you're just going to have a tough time getting forward again. You limit yourself. You cut off one half of the field. Your quarterback can't quite see what's behind him or what's coming. And I just thought that was a poor play call. I would have rather have seen a traditional drop back or something. I don't know if you want to call it like more direct, something that would get you better leverage. But they never had the numbers. They never had the leverage. And they still tried to run it out to that side.
Well, let me challenge you. So I think you either hand the ball to Derrick Henry and let him use his powerful, massive body. By the way, whenever Molly watched him, she's like, he's just so big. And I'm like, yeah, like he looks like a man amongst boys, Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
And you can't tackle him 1-to-1 at the goal line. And I don't think even 2 people can necessarily tackle him on the goal line. And the threat of that is so great. You fake run inside, you run a bootleg to the get Lamar on the perimeter, attacking the line of scrimmage on the outside with the defense biting down hard to try to tackle a play action run with Derrick Henry inside. That dog will hunt because then Lamar's on the perimeter, attacking the line of scrimmage with the ability to run or throw. I like those odds, and I like the threat of sucking linebackers into the line of scrimmage by faking the handoff. But I don't like the play call they had, this weird sprint out thing, and there's this lack of clarity with the receivers. The play call, their number 2 play call was bad, and I really think a bootleg or just a straight run with Derrick Henry was the call, and we didn't see either one of those plays in 2 separate play calls on the goal line for the Ravens.
Yeah, I think play action is probably the best way to go, right? If you're thinking about running that ball with Derrick Henry, they've got Cam Hayward and then we're in there, TJ Watt. All it takes is one person on the goal line to get penetration, and the whole play is screwed. Right. And if you think about what these teams do with those heavy sets, they bring in an extra D lineman, they take the nickel out, they bring in another linebacker. So there's not a lot of mobility. So like you're saying, if you do that nice token play action and you get those linebackers sucked in, and Lamar has more of like a half rollout, not a sprint out, now you get into what you're talking about, where Lamar has the threat to run, and now he's against linebackers and D linemen that probably don't have the pace to keep up with him. There's no nickel out there.
Yeah.
Or, he can deliver it and find someone like Zay Flowers who can be very slippery in the red zone, or a target like Mark Andrews, who is, typically solid, although we've seen him drop quite a few. But I would have given him more options. But that straight, direct sprint out just didn't make sense, because it didn't look like Lamar at any point had any sort of vision. And again, he wasn't gaining any sort of depth to be able to see over the top. So it's just an interesting call.
He's also rolling out left. You don't utilize play action.
He was non-throwing hand.
I really think, too, just the threat of Derrick Henry, faking a handoff inside, pulling some people into the line of scrimmage, even if it holds one guy inside a little bit, which gives Lamar leverage on the outside, Lamar is going to win a race to the pylon. Right. And if you're going to commit to tackling Lamar Jackson, there's going to be someone open in the end zone, because you either got to defend a flat route or a corner route or tackle Lamar. Those odds are like the couple quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson, who had to play similar to this on the goal line actually against the Jets. Anthony Richardson, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson. I didn't throw Mahomes in there. Guys who can move and are big. I want on their perimeter running boot action fakes on 4th and 1, 3rd and inches, whatever, because they're a threat to run, and they're a threat to throw the ball. And they're coming downhill at the line of scrimmage where any defender in the flat has to decide, am I going to commit to tackling Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or play coverage? Either answer, I'm probably wrong and it's bad. And when you've got a running back like Derrick Henry, who again is going to pull edge defenders into the line of scrimmage, it's just a no-brainer that, man, I think that's a great play call that I wanted. I almost feel like we should see it more in the NFL and we don't. And I'm like, why is everyone not doing this on every 3rd and 4th and 1? It's like, it's unstoppable. Every time I see Josh Allen run it, he obliterates people. And it's like, I would lean on that crutch until it doesn't work anymore.
Not everybody's Joshua Allen.
But not everybody's Lamar Jackson. So it's just making my point.
I don't disagree.
The Game Time app is the best place to find NBA tickets. On the Game Time app, you will find affordable tickets that are easy to buy. And here's what Game Time does for you. They've got the Game Time Picks feature, which allows for curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and other events. They've got all-in pricing where toggling this feature shows a total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. There are seat views where you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy your ticket. Game Time has the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And on top of all that, Game Time has ticket coverage where your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem with the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Let's move on to Kansas City. The Bills beat Kansas City 30-21. It was not Sunday night football, but it might as well have been. It was at night, definitely in Buffalo. I was watching. It was dark, and it was weird getting clips of like the 49ers game, which is like broad daylight, and then there's game in Buffalo.
I was at that game. It was crazy.
Oh, you were? Oh, dude, I can't wait. I didn't know that. We should talk about that. I somehow missed that. So anyway, watching this Kansas City Chiefs game, I'm curious what you would say first, but I think it was a game of miscues, actually almost similar to the Ravens and Steelers game where a lot of mistakes were made by both teams. And you could argue maybe it came down to who made the fewer mistakes, but I think Josh Allen actually had kind of a lot of things left on the table, a lot of opportunities, whether it was throws to the flat or throws downfield or a really bad interception thrown in a no man's land. Like he made 5 really key, crucial mistakes that I think could have cost Buffalo the game, but simply didn't. What'd you make of the Bills beating Kansas City yesterday?
Yeah, I think that's right there. First thing, I don't think either team is going to that film session feeling very good about it. Even though the Bills won, this team that is ascending, and I now have to give credit to, is they want more, right? First thing, Bills made the big plays. They were 9 of 15 on 3rd down, kept that Chiefs defense on the field, and kept the ball in their hands away from Pat. The big catches by Amari Cooper were absolutely game changing. So you think right. And that's the addition we talked about. He wasn't going to be this high volume guy, but when you needed him, this veteran was going to be there. So it was absolutely flawless.
Well, let's say he had 2 big catches down the sideline beating.
And he only had 2 catches. And he only had 2 catches. And they were the only 2 that he needed for that game. Again, they kept Mahomes off of his spot. Frequently you'd see him drop back. He's setting, looking to throw, and he has to slide right or slide left. He did not have a lot of time to hit the top of his drop and make a throw. So not that they were getting an amazing pass rush, but they were getting Pat moving. And I thought that was important because it ended up resulting in his last interception. He had to move out of the pocket earlier than he wanted to. And there was another play earlier. He missed Juju over the middle just because he had to move off his spot a little sooner than intended. And they stifled the run game. That's how the Chiefs have been winning these games. 20 some odd plus carries for their running back who had been Kareem Hunt with the injury to Isaiah Pacheco. They're averaging around 31 to 32 minutes in terms of time of possession. Against the Bills, they only had 25.
Yeah.
So you got Pat on the field for 5 less minutes. You can say that's maybe a drive. You can say maybe that's 2 drives. That's absolutely massive if you're the Bills. And again, if he's not out there, that means their defense is out there, and their defense is outstanding. But you get a little bit later in that game, it can be really, really hard to stay functional as a defense, no matter who you are. So those big 3 things, again, that time of possession, like we talked about against the Steelers, Bills were able to do that. They were able to move Mahomes off his spot and make it difficult for him to throw the football accurately. And then they just made the big plays, man. And that was important because they didn't buckle. After that Josh Allen interception, They didn't buckle. And every time the Kansas City Chiefs scored, they responded with a scoring drive of their own. And that was awesome.
So I talked about Josh Allen. I think he had 5 plays that he had 2 flat routes that would have been a huge gain, if not touchdowns, that he just threw in the dirt. He had a play where I forget who it was. It was Curtis Samuel coming across the middle of the field open, and he threw into triple coverage and throws an interception. You're like, or I guess, was it picked or was it? I think it was hit to the ground. He only threw one interception on the day, and the interception was a throw. Again, he was throwing to Dalton Kincaid, who didn't slow down. It was Dalton Kincaid or Dawson Knox. I can't remember. It would have been Dawson Knox because Kincaid was out. Yeah. So throws right out of linebacker for an interception. He had another throw deep downfield that he threw in the dirt to Khalil Shakur. And so I think Josh was imperfect, but they won anyway. Kansas City made, I think, more crucial mistakes. The game started and ended for Mahomes with interception. First drive and final drive. He's off platform, doesn't set his feet. Now, he makes that throw all the time, by the way. I don't want to criticize Patrick Mahomes for making a throw off platform. That's his game. That's what he does.
Yes. And real quickly, I just want to come in this year, though. He's made more off platform interceptions than typical. So something's telling me, kind of like we were talking about last week with CJ Stroud, he's just trying a little bit too hard. He wants to make that, you can't even compare it to anyone else. He wants to make that Mahomes-esque play every time. And right now, it truthfully is hurting Kansas City. It's on opening drives. It's in the red zone. It's when they're driving down the field and having momentum, and he's having those interceptions. And they're not forced. It's not like, he's getting hit while he's in the pocket or he got rushed and he didn't know where to go with the football. These are conscious decisions to let go of that football. And I know that that's part of his game, and that's why we love him, and that's why he's Pat Mahomes. But he's got to dial it in and rein it back just a little bit.
The times he's looked best this year, I'm trying to think of what games it was exactly. There are a couple of games I watched him play where he was really disciplined. The Tampa Bay game, he took what the defense gave him a lot, and it was really, really disciplined and kind of boring at times. And you look at that game, he had 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 34 for 44, really efficient, really straightforward. So when he plays within himself and isn't doing too much, he's great. But it's this fine dance of how do you tell Patrick Mahomes to basically not be Patrick Mahomes? How do you that's been what has made him who he is. And you're telling him, hey, don't be Brett Favre, but he's that's what I do. So it's that fine line there where you want him to play disciplined, but you want him to have special magic occasionally. And I don't know how you coach that because, again, you tell Pat to not be Pat. I don't know the answer there, but certainly a little bit of discipline would go a long way right now in Kansas City. On top of that, though, Xavier Worthy had a big catch downfield that was not a catch because he had a foot out of bounds. And that's frankly I know that's look, could I make that play in the NFL? No. I want to be very clear. It's not an easy play, but for a great receiver, that's somewhat routine to get your feet in bounds. And it felt a lack of awareness along the sideline.
That's a routine NFL wide receiver catch.
On top of that, they had to play Patrick Mahomes on the final drive, runs for first down on 4th and 3, gets called back. They got to run that play back over again. That's painful. And then really the biggest, most backbreaking play of the entire game is actually a play their defense gave up. 4th and 2. They've got the opportunity to hold Buffalo and stop them and really give themselves a chance to win this game and keep it a 1-possession game.
If they get that, if they get that stop, they've got 2 minutes left and 2 timeouts. You're telling me Pat's not getting them down there for a field goal? We've seen that too many times. The script was written, it was set up, but Josh Allen's Josh Allen.
Yeah, I think they probably win. Honestly, if they get that stop on 4th and 2, it's game over. And they lost contain. And not only didn't stop Josh Allen running for a first down, he runs for a touchdown, 26 yards for a touchdown. You're like, oh man, it's a backbreaking play.
They played it perfect. They played the play perfectly. And then Josh Allen just put the cape on, like we've talked about so many times this year. He just makes those plays. When things look down and out, when things are dead to rights, he's able to extend it and get through. I'm honestly not quite sure because they were in zone coverage. I'm not quite sure how someone didn't eventually get to Josh to bring him down. But obviously he's a unit. He's hard to bring down solo anyways. It kind of almost reminds me of the play in the Super Bowl, the 4th down that Pat had in overtime, where his was more of a design sprint out. Josh was kind of more so escaping. But yeah, you're able to get outside of the pocket and run for that first down, being that mobile quarterback, something you were talking about earlier with the Ravens. Like, put those guys in a situation where they can use their legs.
If I remember correctly, they made contact with Josh Allen on like the 7-yard line, but he's 6'5" and massive, and a DB hitting Josh Allen, who's running full speed by that point at the 7-yard line. He like fell sideways and backwards into the end zone, but it's like, dude, like you're not going to just stop Josh Allen if you're a corner in the NFL. It's like tackling Cam Newton or Derrick Henry. It's like that doesn't just happen quickly.
He is a pit bull that has like a golden retriever's brain. You know what I mean? Like, he's just big and he's wide and he's tough. But in his brain, you've got no idea what's going on. But somehow he just finds the happy place. He finds a happy spot and makes it work. It's crazy.
Did you watch his post-game interview? How he's like, just another week 11 win, very personable. I thought, like, Molly doesn't know Josh Allen really from anyone else. She just knows his face, and that was kind of her first exposure to Josh. And she was like, that's a great interview. Like, that's a really well-spoken dude who you want carrying your franchise. And I agreed with her.
But you know that they got back in the locker room. They can say, oh, week 11, week 11, well, not that. But you know that they're like, come on, let's go, screaming in the locker room.
Yeah. But I think
there's no way that doesn't mean more than what they're letting on. Because if Josh Allen didn't get that first down, they went down and kicked it, or even if they didn't put that exclamation point on it with Josh Allen, they'd have been a little more like, okay, that was a little sketchy. That was a little scary. But yeah, it means so much more to them than they're letting on. I respect it. You're up at the podium saying the right thing, but that meant a lot. Don't lie about it.
One other play though that really stands out to me, I think you'd be curious about this. You've made fun of Khalil Shakur a lot, and is he a number one? Is he not? Hey man, final drive of the game for the Bills, 3rd and 9. He makes a massive catch. He gets hit by 2 defenders as he catches it, uses his body. It was a big time catch. I don't know how you say what you want, man. That's a player making a number one receiver type play in a big moment, and you got to respect it, man. Like that's awesome. And
Shakir has certainly earned my respect this year as far as being a receiver who maybe isn't your prototypical number one, but is more than capable of handling volume. I think those two things are different. I think he's probably a little bit closer to an Amon-Ra St. Brown than he is a Jamar Chase. Again, those guys are tiers and tiers and tiers above him. Let's be very clear there.
Yeah.
But he's got a quality to him that Josh Allen likes. He finds himself where Josh Allen wants him to be. He's great after the catch. And obviously he has the speed to kind of, either take the top off the defense or just hide. He's a really crafty wide receiver. And again, he's earned my respect this year.
Could you make the argument it's kind of good for Kansas City? Like, you get the first one out of the way, all the drama's gone, and now the end of your year is Carolina, Raiders, Chargers, Browns, Houston, Steelers, Broncos. Like, there's still 2 or 3 tough games, but this looks like a 14-3 team minimum to me.
Yeah, I think the pressure's off for the undefeated season, and they can start looking at how they want to shape up the postseason. Right? Obviously, you still want to fight for the 1 seed. Now the Bills having the tiebreaker over them. If they lose 2 more, what does the Bills season finish like? Even the Steelers now, what does their season finish like if you want that number 1 seed in the NFC, or I'm sorry, in the AFC? But I think that they are going to get into, I don't know if you want to say like batten down the hatches, because it's not going to be, they're not going to come out with some sort of new offensive or defensive explosion. But Pacheco might be coming back this next week. Hollywood Brown's probably going to start hitting the practice field just to be able to get out there and get loose, maybe for a playoff return. So I anticipate the Chiefs trying to tighten some things up here the next couple of weeks, less focused on the result and more focused on doing the right things so that they are prepared situationally for the games that they're going to be in. They're not going to blow anybody out. So are you prepared situationally for this playoff run?
Yeah, I think for Mahomes, it's a chance to fine tune, to play a little more disciplined, to, how do I say this? Like, practice good habits that are going to be very important in a playoff run. But you can use a Raider game, a Charger game. Chargers aren't bad, but you kind of get my drift.
Not now.
Like Carolina Raiders, especially, are moments to kind of refocus and recenter and get back to what's most important, the fundamentals of football, and making good decisions and not having crazy bad interceptions. Like, it'd be nice to see Mahomes have like 5 touchdowns and no picks in the next 2 games between Carolina and the Raiders. And that would be a good recentering and refocusing, I think, for him. And that's, I think, worth noting is what happens the next 2 games specifically for Patrick Mahomes going into that Charger game on December 8th. I don't know. And it's going to be noteworthy to see like what goes down and how he refocuses.
Yeah, I think that the message for Pat is I need to do a little bit less so that I can be more for my team. I think that's a message. I think that's what he's going to look at on tape. He's going to see a few things that he moved off of too early. He's going to see a few things that he tried to force, and hopefully get that cleaned up.
What about the Ravens? Or sorry, the Ravens. Sure, they're great too. But what about the Bills? Like, what does this mean for Buffalo? They are 8-2.
Yeah,
I think these 2 teams are battling for the number 1 seed in the AFC, and it's fun. There's kind of a rivalry that we have. It's reminiscent of Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. This fun back and forth between Josh Allen and Mahomes, and I know Burrow's got something to say about that. I know Lamar Jackson has something to say about that. But these 2 teams have had the most memorable games in my recent memory. What do you make of Buffalo? They're 9-2. What's the rest of their year look like in your opinion?
They've got 2 more tough games, maybe 3. They've got the Niners coming up after the bye week here. They've got Detroit a little bit later in December, and then you could maybe consider the Rams. But other than that, they've got the Jets, and then they've got New England twice.
Yeah.
So they're probably feeling good about what the rest of their season looks like. They have that late bye, so they've been on an absolute grind this year. Get to finally rest up. You get to play the Niners after a week of rest. That's going to feel great for you. And you get the Niners at home, which is huge. And then, a nice 2-game road test, the Rams and then Detroit. And those 2 games will tell us a lot about their season. But, Sean McDermott, I apologize. I didn't think that he was going to be able to coach this team into the position that they are right now. Josh Allen's played perfectly. And the biggest thing to me is the defense has shown up when it mattered. Whether it was a big play from a guy like Taylor Rapp, again, knocking the football out of somebody's hands or forcing a fumble, or whether it's Josh Allen putting the cape on, the 2 have played so well, complementary, the Bills' offense and defense. I hate to do this. I'm gonna put them in the contender category, and I'm doing that to reverse jinx them. No, but they're a good football team, and certainly better than I wanted to give them credit for earlier this year.
Yeah, your opinion has really evolved a lot on Buffalo, and I think deservedly so. I mean, I recognize that you have given respect to them as they've given you reason to as the year has gone on, and that's I think the right approach is adjust your opinion when you get new information that changes it.
Yeah, absolutely. And had they have lost to Kansas City, I would have been relentless, right? Because then your losses this year are Kansas City, Baltimore, and Houston, right? 3 legitimate playoffs teams. So now I'm looking at you. Okay, cool. You beat the Jets, you beat the Colts, you beat the Titans. That doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. But the fact that they came out, they beat the defending champs, 2-time defending champs, Kansas City Chiefs, and they've looked so solid. Again, not perfect, but they've looked solid. That gives me a lot of confidence that they have a chance to make a playoff run. Again, I want to put them in the contender category, and I think that they're almost there, more than likely. But it's still hard for me to to commit to that. I want to put them up there.
If the playoffs started today, by the way, the Steelers would play the Ravens, the Bills would play the Broncos, and Houston would play the Chargers. So like that, I don't know that's going to finish that way, but man,
that game would be so interesting. The Broncos Bills, the way the Broncos. Are we done talking about the Bills? Do we want to start talking about the Broncos?
We can talk about Denver. Now? Denver had an awesome game this weekend. They dominated the Atlanta Falcons. I want to get the score right. I don't want to say it wrong. I know Bo Nix had a crazy good game. The final score of that game, again, I want to get it right. The Broncos beat the Falcons 38-6. And the storyline to me is Bo Nix, 5 incomplete passes, 28 for 33 on the day, 307 yards, buddy. 4 touchdowns. Now, some of those are really efficient screens in their offense. I think getting yards and completions on the screen game feels kind of cheap, but it's still that's what Drew Brees did though in Sean Payton's system too. He manufactured a ton of yards that way. Mm-hmm. I think what's really clear as the Broncos elevate themselves to 6-5, they got the right guy. And we've been saying this, by the way, for a long time now. It's very clear Sean Payton and Bo Nix are a marriage made in heaven. But this is like the foundational moment where like, yep, like it's finally you got a game you can point to and say, there's the evidence right there. Bo Nix has landed. He's a perfect quarterback for the system.
He has indeed
You'll
landed.
love him. He looks like a franchise quarterback. He's only a rookie, so the sky's the limit. He's going to keep getting better and better as the year goes on. And he's mobile. He's accurate. He does the little things right. I loved watching Bo Nix in Denver dismantle the Falcons this weekend. What say you?
The first question is the University of Oregon the new quarterback factory? Justin Herbert, Bo Nix, Mariota, when he played this year, looked fantastic in that one half of football.
Dylan Gabriel.
I don't know if he's an NFL guy.
You can't say that, but then back off so quick.
But I felt that way about Bo Nix his first year at Oregon. He came back for his second year, and I was like, oh, this dude's the truth. Dylan Gabriel's not going to have that opportunity first year in the offense, but, we'll see. Maybe, they go and he gets drafted by the Dolphins in like the third or fourth round, and now you got two Hawaiians. They're both lefties, both somewhat mobile. Actually, no, two is not really mobile at all, but anyways, let's get back to the Denver Broncos, man. Defense is playing lights out. You take that Falcons offense and you just rub them into the dirt. Kirk Cousins at no point could get anything going. I think his lack of mobility is starting to show a lot. He was only sacked 3 times, but he was under pressure. He was honestly running for his life. And when he's not on platform, he can't deliver the football. And that was kind of the story is receivers weren't open when Kirk Cousins had time. And when Kirk Cousins needed time, he didn't have it. And again, off-platform throws are tough for him right now. Just mobility in general is tough for him right now. The Broncos did a great job.
Remember, Vance Joseph is the defensive coordinator in Denver. He's a former head coach of the Denver Broncos. Like him being brought back in a different role with Denver is kind of weird.
That's so much humility to be fired the way he was, and then to come back as somebody else's defensive coordinator. Folks, take notes. Sometimes you just got to bury the hatchet. It's water under the bridge, and you got to keep things moving.
And he's
not all the time, but sometimes.
Like this Denver team, I'm telling you. I know they got their butts kicked by Baltimore, and I was hoping they could challenge Baltimore, but at no point in that game did Bo Nix go over. And we talked about that last week against the Ravens. Like, but they lost badly, 41-10, but he was hanging around and looked alive. But as they look ahead to the rest of the year, Kansas City plays Denver, and I'm like, that Denver defense and the way Patrick Mahomes is playing right now feels like a recipe for a Denver win. It's very possible, at least, and it wasn't even possible 2 years ago.
Denver should have won their last matchup. You know what I mean? So it's now not out of the question that, the Denver Broncos go ahead and split the series with the Chiefs this year.
Yeah.
But you're right. What a transition from where they were at 2 years ago.
I just like that, again, like I think we've all year been saying, Bo Nix looks really good. Bo Nix looks really good. This is the game where now there are numbers that kind of prove evidence. The right people need numbers and evidence. And this is now a game you can point to like, oh, did you watch the Falcons game? Because Bo Nix looked incredible there. And it's like, he's landed, he's arrived. And now they've got proof that everyone can finally admit and see that, no, this kid's really, really awesome.
Yeah, it makes me a little bit curious if the Falcons have the right guy with Raheem Morris. Again, supposed to be a defensive expert. Yeah. You had some strong acquisitions in the offseason, on that defensive side of the football. Obviously, Kirk Cousins was supposed to be able to get the football to these, first-round weapons that you've had between Drake London and between Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson. And things just haven't turned out that way. And I'm curious what's going on in Atlanta, Georgia.
They've still got a 2-game lead in their division, but like, what does that really mean? I guess it's a game and a half because, they've got a bye week and Tampa hasn't yet. How do I say this? I don't know if that's really that impressive, winning the NFC South. Like,
it is not.
It's like,
there's a reason Tom Brady went there to close out his career. He's like, oh, I can get a free playoff berth? Bet.
But at the same time, is it just year one? And maybe they're going to get to a place of complete dominance over that division in time. Because it's not like the division's getting any better. The Saints are kind of floundering. They fired their coach. The Carolina Panthers are awful. Tampa is all right. They're losing really close games, and Tampa very easily could be more like 8-2 instead of 4-6.
Right.
So I think Tampa's a true threat to them. But on paper, Atlanta's got way better players than Tampa. So you would think with one more year next year in the same system, guys have more cohesion. Like maybe Atlanta takes a step forward next year rather than a step sideways or back.
If this was college ball, I would say yes. But in the NFL, there's so much turnover on rosters. Guys leave, guys go get paid, guys retire.
Even for Kirk, though, like a quarterback being in their second year of a system does matter.
Yeah, it absolutely matters. But sometimes, and we're seeing this with Aaron Rodgers, you come off that Achilles injury, there's things that you just can't do. And maybe you're right. Maybe it's going to take him a year to learn, how he needs to move within the pocket, coming off this Achilles injury. But I look at a team now, you're past the halfway point in the season. I would understand that the first couple weeks, and I think that we saw that. But you start hitting at this point in the season, you want to see positive strides towards being more efficient, being more consistent, and the team starting to gel. And right now it seems like they're going in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Giants if we can, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
I saw something really, how do I say it? I think it's more interesting than people realize. After 6 years and 71 games, the Giants have benched Daniel Jones. He will be their third string quarterback moving forward. And here's what's interesting about this. Yes, Daniel Jones is now benched. He's third string. He's on the roster. They expect him to show up, but he's now no longer the quarterback. He's not the second string. And they also didn't go to who I think is probably their maybe their best quarterback on the roster, Drew Lock. Drew Lock remains, he got leapfrogged. He remains the number 2 quarterback on the roster. They took Tommy DeVito from their third string quarterback to make him their starting quarterback.
Tommy DeVito.
I think it's really interesting for a couple of reasons. And it's that, number one, there's been a kind of a Tommy DeVito mania. And I think him being on the roster will always have people wanting to see Tommy DeVito. This is going to be an opportunity to end that conversation. Let's just let him play. It's a kind of a kamikaze move, but we're tired of hearing the chatter. If we want to get a new quarterback next year, we can't have the fan base constantly asking for Tommy DeVito. We got to just let this mania play out and let people kind of make up their own minds. Like, yeah, he's a fun story, but he's not that good of a quarterback. And so if we draft Cameron Ward or Shedeur Sanders or whoever next year in the draft, we just can't have our fan base asking for this third string quarterback to be the guy. So A, it does that. But B, I think you're more likely to lose with Tommy DeVito than Drew Lock. It's kind of a sidestep where you're tanking now. Your season is about getting the highest possible first round pick you can possibly have next year. So I think it's a smart move because it achieves a lot. Ends the mania, helps them tank and have a better draft pick. It gets Daniel Jones the heck out of there. What say you? What do you make of this Daniel Jones benching, this move by the New York Giants?
Yeah, let's just simplify it. Daniel Jones has had more opportunity than most quarterbacks get to prove that he's a franchise guy, and he got paid borderline like a franchise guy a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
That's a problem. You're benching him because he's not good, and you're putting in Tommy DeVito over Drew Lock because you don't want to win games. They know that Drew Lock could be a better quarterback than Tommy DeVito, but to me, it's not about silencing the Twitter crowd of people that are calling for Tommy DeVito because he's Tommy DeVito and his agent has the hat. And this is all about, hey, we are fully committing to the tank here and we are getting ourselves a running back. Now imagine if you would have just sold the farm, moved up, got a guy like Michael Penix, got a guy like Bo Nix, got anybody, right? Instead of going with neighbors, you re-sign Saquon Barkley. And I think that this team looks a lot better than it does right now. I mean, hindsight vision, obviously 2020, but Neighbors, and not that Neighbors is a bad pick, let's be clear. He's been excellent for them. But if you don't have the guy to get him the football, what's the point?
Yeah, and I just think about their next quarterback. Their next quarterback would be better off with Saquon Barkley and Malik Neighbors.
Every quarterback in the league would be better off with Saquon Barkley. He's the best running back in the league. Christian McCaffrey this, Christian McCaffrey that. Saquon Barkley is the best running back in the National Football League, and it's not close.
On top of that, so let's just say the numbers here. Daniel Jones has made $108 million in his career.
It's 108 more million than me.
Highway robbery, dude. And the Giants, by cutting him now, I guess after this year, there's an out in his contract after 2024. It's only $22 million of dead cap they got to pay him by cutting him this offseason. That's assuredly what's going to happen. If they don't, he's a $41 million cap hit next year. So there's no way they're going to keep him. His time with the Giants is done. He's going to get cut when the season is over. And it's, I'm glad to see him gone. I don't think he was an impressive leader. He wasn't a particularly good quarterback. Made a lot of mistakes, a lot of ugly football, never seemed to develop. Never showed. I mean, look, I think he's an okay athlete, but I was waiting and he just never delivered, man. It was such a frustrating career to watch. And especially as time went on, it was so obvious, like, this guy doesn't have it. Why are the Giants investing in this guy? Why are they being so patient? And I guess it means people in New York have got job security. Like they seem unwilling to move on from people, but wow, is it a baffling career to kind of reflect on from a Giant standpoint?
Yeah, what you said was perfect in terms of he never developed. He would make a great throw. He's a great athlete, but he was never a great thrower of the football in terms of his accuracy. It never felt like he knew where to go with the football, despite having years in the NFL system. And then you couple that with making the same rookie mistakes of, again, like throwing the ball into triple coverage, taking bad sacks, exiting out of the back of the pocket, not stepping up. Just things that even Caleb Williams from last week to this week did a lot better. He never did that. He never took those strides. And without Saquon Barkley, I'm sure his numbers would have been a lot worse. And I don't want to keep ragging on him and keep harping on him. Playing quarterback in the NFL is hard. And I just don't think that he's cut out for it.
Yeah,
maybe take the Tebow route, put on a few pounds, and go play tight end. Dude, he's a freak athlete. That dude can move.
No one has tackled anyone breaking away to the end zone more than Daniel Jones tackled himself, though. Like, how many times did he like outruns everyone? He's on like a 5-yard line. He just trips, and you're like, dude,
on his own shoelaces.
How is that possible? How is that? Yeah. It happened more than once, and that's crazy to me.
Unbelievable.
I want to talk. We'll talk about the Lions in a minute, but I first want to talk about coaches who I think might be in danger of getting fired. There's one coach in particular that feels really, really obvious and clear. That is Matt Eberflus, the Chicago Bears head coach. We watched the Bears lose 19-20 to the Packers this weekend. They lose. Their final field goal attempt gets blocked. And sure, like, you can blame the blocked field goal, but really, to me, it was just another example of a lot of situational mistakes and frankly, poor coaching in Chicago from Matt Eberflus. I don't hate the guy. He's a solid defensive coordinator. At least he was in Indianapolis, and he's had some good moments with the Bears defense, but ultimately he's not the guy to get the job done with Caleb Williams and develop him and turn him into the quarterback I think he should be and could be in Chicago. I think it's very clear and obvious Matt Eberflus gets fired and should be fired. What say you?
Yeah, should be fired. I don't think there's any reason to wait until the end of the season. Part of that is maybe they don't have anybody on staff who could be the interim head coach. So then you end up with a situation like the Jets. Like, yes, you fire, Matt Eberflus, but then what do you have? Like, there's not really going to be any step changes in the Chicago Bears this year. So yeah, long-winded way to say yes, he's getting fired. He's had more than enough time to prove it. Matt Nagy had a better record when he was fired, and he did it with Mitch Trubisky. Took him to the playoffs. Like, it's, apples and oranges here.
He's never beat the Packers once, by the way. Matt Eberflus has never, ever. They're on an 11-game losing streak to the Green Bay Packers. Like, that's
the Packers
horrifying.
Have had some tough years in there, or probably 2 tough years in there. Not a good look.
So I think we're in agreement. Matt Eberflus should be fired. He's on his way out. It's a matter of time. I don't know if it's going to be the end of the year or now. I think you made a good point. If you fire him now, you just kind of make your season more difficult unnecessarily by, like, I don't think he's such a bad person that everyone hates him. It's just not working. I don't know that keeping him is detrimental. You just know that next year he's not the guy that gives you the best chance to win. Yeah. What say you?
Yeah, he's definitely not the guy that gives you the best chance to win. And I was trying to do some internet sleuthing and just to see how Eberflus kind of operates within the building. Is he a guy that meddles? Maybe somebody who's, got more Bears insider information. Is he a guy that kind of meddles into the offense? I remember in Hard Knocks that weird meeting that he had with Caleb Williams, and they were kind of talking about offensive stuff, but it wasn't very technical. Like, it seemed very staged and weird. So I'm actually curious if Matt Eberflus is a guy who meddles too much and is like, hey, my defense is good. I need you guys to protect the football and just make sure that we're making smart decisions, blah, blah, blah. Because part of the conversation with Caleb Williams was, yeah, he wasn't playing well, but he also wasn't throwing interceptions or turning the ball over. Mm-hmm. So obviously he's being told by someone or some peoples, that he can't turn the ball loose. I don't know. I'm just curious if he meddles or not. And that's a genuine question from me to the people out there who might have some more insight.
Can I offer some perspective on this, though? Well, number one, like we saw Robert Saleh, for example, made a point to be in every offensive meeting this year as opposed to years past, right? So coaches that are head coaches are not necessarily the defensive coordinator or the offensive coordinator. You're delegating to everyone underneath you, and you're supposed to have a hand a little bit in everything, and keep checks and balances and making sure that everything's operating the way it should. So that's one thing. But on top of that, like when I was in college, I met once a week with my head coach, and I was a quarterback. Like that, and it wasn't necessarily football. It was life. It was how you doing? How is school? What are you struggling with in the field? Like what are just psychologically a guy that I really trust and respect was willing to give me an hour of his time minimum a week to just talk to me and help me out as a human. If you're a head coach in the NFL and you got a rookie quarterback, like you should be doing that absolutely. Whether you're talking football, you're just checking on the kid. How's it going? I know you saw this horrible headline about you. How's that feel? Let's talk football. Like, what are you struggling? Like, let me give you some advice here and there. Talk philosophy of the game, what you do on third down. In the red zone, you throw the ball away out the back of the end zone. Like all kinds of a smattering of stuff happens in those conversations. And so even if they were meeting once a week, which I did see that Hard Knocks clip, it is kind of like, says this it felt weird and forced. Even if I don't know that that's an accurate representation of what it probably would have become if that meeting does take place every week, which is, I think, the right thing to do. Every coach should meet with your rookie quarterback once or twice or three times a week, having lunch with the kid and just checking in. How's it going? Like weird example, but coach and quarterback have a really tight relationship. More so your coach and your quarterback and your offensive coordinator, but head coach is still a part of that. And it's kind of similar to a marriage. And, Molly and I do a thing, we call it, saying every week, let's have a talk is really stressful and scary. So instead we call it marriage building time. We just check in every Saturday and we go, hey, what'd you talk? Like, how are things going this week? We talked about this last week. How'd that go? A week later, checking in and seeing how things are going, almost like couples therapy, but without a therapist. I would imagine a coach quarterback relationship in the NFL is very similar, where you want to just regularly check in with a kid and see how he's doing and help with anything psychologically or on the field you possibly can.
Yeah, certainly don't disagree with that there. You brought up something about Robert Saleh and him attending all the offensive meetings. I argue he had to babysit. What was going on in there? So that's entirely different. Do you think Eberflus maybe had? There. Do you think Eberflus maybe babysat? I'm not going to speculate too much. Bottom line, Eberflus has got to go, and the guy right behind him is Doug Peterson.
Oh yeah, we saw the Lions. I know. Look, the Lions played a Jaguars team that didn't have Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. I realize that, but
wouldn't have mattered.
52-6 can't happen. You can't, because the quarterback didn't just look bad. It was every aspect of that football team looks bad. And it looks like, I don't know if you would agree on this. It feels like the team has kind of given up on the season and maybe given up on Doug Peterson. Do you kind of agree with that thought?
I think they gave up on Doug Peterson weeks ago, right? After those tragic losses to start the season where they were in complete control of the games and lost. I think that's where they lost the faith. And then again, there continued to be this lack of development in the offense. I talked about how much I dislike every play needing to be either long play action or boots or sprint outs. You are constantly moving the quarterback, and that can be beneficial if you're facing a severe pass rush and you can't protect your guy. But at a certain point, you need to play more, maybe traditional football isn't the word, but more straightforward football. Hey, we're going to line up an I formation and run the ball. Hey, we're going to run trips in a single and we're going to throw a slant to our number one on the backside. And just things like that I think that maybe Trevor Lawrence was more familiar with doing in college. But at the end of the day, I thought that a new offensive play caller could have completely changed the game for them earlier in the season, could have gotten Lawrence more comfortable, could have gotten Brian Thomas Jr. more comfortable, and utilized the weapons in Gabe Davis and in Christian Kirk before he got injured. To again revive this team, because the defense was playing okay, and then eventually the wheels fall off. Guys start getting injured. Now Trevor's got the injury, and there's just not a lot to come back from. With the way the season ended last year, and with the way the season has started and gone this year, I don't see a world in which Doug Peterson can return to coaching the Jacksonville Jaguars.
No, I think you're absolutely spot on, and I think it's a job that's going to be coveted. You look at the opportunity to work with Trevor Lawrence, to be in Florida. And I think the Jaguars owner is fairly supportive. Actually, I don't get the sense he's like some toxic, terrible owner. I don't think he's a huge problem. I think I'd work for him. So I think it's to a prospective head coach, a la maybe Ben Johnson or someone like that. It's a great opportunity to work with Trevor and build something in Jacksonville. And so I think given the desirability of the job and how bad your coach is doing now, it's a no-brainer to get rid of him. I think the next coach I'm curious about, it just feels like he's a dead man walking. I just wonder if you make the move before the year is over simply to get a jump on finding the next head coach. To kind of be the first, because right now, for example, the Saints are already looking for a head coach for next year. And so they've got to jump on everyone else by being ahead of the curve and making that move really, really early. I wonder if the Dallas Cowboys should make that move sooner than later. Mike McCarthy's not going to be the coach in Dallas next year. He's a dead man walking. I mean this with all due respect. It's over. It's done. And you can argue why, but it's very clear he should be out as a Cowboys head coach. The only question is, do you do it now before, the year ends and you've got time to then start looking for the next head coach and doing the interview process and doing the recruiting process early? Or you out of respect, wait till the week 18 ends and the season is over? What do you make of that thought, Nathan?
Yeah, I just think you let McCarthy see the season out. Last year, if this was happening last year, maybe I say something different, but it's clear that it's not McCarthy's fault. I mean, we saw him tonight looking at some of the throws Cooper Rush was making or the penetration that the Texans D-line was getting. He's like, there's not a play in my playbook that I can call that is not going to be disrupted. They don't have the personnel offensively or defensively. Double that down with the Dak injury. Now it looks like Zach Martin might be out. Guyton got injured. Another one of their tackles or guards got injured after Martin. Things are going from bad to worse. Yeah, you could fire him, but I don't think it's going to do any good. Obviously, you haven't signed him to a new contract, so he was coaching for a contract. That's not going to happen. I'd wait out till the end of the season.
Interesting,
because the Cowboys job will be coveted. It is the biggest brand in sports in the world.
Okay.
Somebody is going to want that job. Now, is it going to be fun, having to deal with Jerry Jones and maybe an interesting cap situation between paying CD, Micah, and Dak? Probably. But again, an opportunity to coach the Dallas Cowboys, there's going to be a number of coaches that jump at that.
Yeah. Is there any other coaches you kind of look around at the NFL and go, this guy is maybe on the hot seat, or maybe it's worth... I think those are the guys that are probably going to be fired. But are there other coaches around the NFL you think are maybe worth a conversation and asking the question about?
A couple of guys can be fired. I'm not sure if they will. Antonio Pierce with the Raiders. They have not looked good at all this year. For a moment there, when they beat the Ravens early in the season, people thought there might be something there. The only thing great about that team right now is Brock Bowers. So congratulations, you drafted Brock. But unfortunately, Antonio, I don't think you're going to be around next year.
A tight end.
But at the same time, the Raiders are known for canning coaches and moving on and moving through coaches as of recent. So maybe they just try and give them another year. But if you go, I'm not sure how much is going to change between this year and next year. Whether you get a quarterback or not, I'm not sure how much things change. Can I actually talk about that for a second? Because I think if it looks like there's an opportunity to draft a quarterback, the Raiders should probably fire Antonio Pierce. I think everyone respects the guy. I think we should say all the basic stuff. We don't want to see people get fired. We like the guy, blah, blah, blah. But he's one of the rare coaches where I'm like, I think you could keep him and it's all right. The team's pretty bad. He's a good guy. The players love him. He was dealt a shit sandwich. Yeah. Halfway through last year, shit sandwich. And then now he has to coach this year, shit sandwich. It's like he has not been given what I think is a great assessment of somebody's coaching abilities. But at the same time, a guy like Jonathan Gannon last year with the Cardinals, we're like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. But at the end of the year, you started to see the coaching come through, align, assign, defense started to play better, and they were a feisty team. And translate that into this year, things are really trending up for the Cardinals. So if we don't see some things starting to look positive towards the end of this year, which I don't think we're going to, then yeah, he's probably fired.
But this decision is less about Antonio Pierce and more about a potential rookie quarterback. If they find themselves in a position to draft a rookie quarterback, then I'm sorry, but I don't want Antonio Pierce to be the guy bringing along a Cameron Ward, a Shitter Sanders, or whatever. Insert any name you want, right?
We need to bring in one of those offensive quarterback rookie specialist you were talking about last week. We got to bring in one of those guys.
Cliff Kingsbury, back in the desert. It's 4 hours farther south from Phoenix. No, I'm serious though. Like Cameron Ward with Cliff Kingsbury is a good move, I think. I think my point is though, you owe your rookie quarterback to give him every possibility to have a successful start to his career. And as much as I love Antonio Pierce, that's just not the head coach I want to bring along a rookie quarterback. The same way Matt Eberflus is not the right coach for a rookie Caleb Williams. You just can't do that. The defensive coach who never played quarterback and has a hard time relating to quarterback should not be your head coach when you have a rookie quarterback whose start to their career is so delicate and important. Dan Quinn is an outlier coaching Jaden Daniels, but it's working because of Cliff Kingsbury.
Right.
I'm sure Dan Quinn loves Jaden Daniels and they get along great and have weekly meetings, whatever, but Cliff Kingsbury is the reason why Jaden Daniels is succeeding right now. And you got to find someone like that to work with whatever rookie quarterback, if there is one next year for the Raiders organization. Now, maybe they make a move to go get a veteran quarterback, and then that's a moot point, right? If you're going to get a veteran quarterback, I think you can keep Antonio Pierce. If you're going to draft a kid in the first round, I'm sorry, Antonio Pierce cannot be your head coach next year if you're the Raiders.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do want to say Jaden Daniels hasn't looked amazing the past couple of weeks.
Yep.
But he's still holding on to the fact that he's not critically turning the ball over.
Yeah, he's also injured. The rib injury, I guess.
Yeah.
If you want. It's messy. I don't know. I don't have a great answer. I don't have a rebuttal there.
Last coach that's kind of in the same situation to me as Antonio Pierce, is Brian Daboll. Again, to me, he got kind of handed the shit sandwich of, hey, I'm going to take away your best offensive weapon, Saquon Barkley. And I'm not going to make any sort of moves in the draft, and I'm going to draft a weapon, but you're still going to have Daniel Jones throwing the football. And I think that that's probably frustrating for him because he's like, I never got the chance to have the guy or a guy operate my offense. And you go from having Josh Allen to a guy like Daniel Jones. You win a playoff game. You're like, okay, some things are trending up. And now here you are still in the same place with a quarterback who can't complete passes. I'm curious if he gets another year, number one. And then number two, if he doesn't, where does he get hired? Is it another head coaching job or is it a coordinator job? Like, how does the rest of the league feel about Brian Daboll?
Do you think Joe Shane's going to get fired, the general manager?
Yeah. Saquon just walked into your house and had a career day. You know what I mean? You're fired. Well, you didn't want to pay him.
Can I offer, I think for sake of like consistent thought, I need to say this because I remember watching Hard Knocks Giants this offseason and talking about how I actually like Joe Shane's philosophy. It didn't work for him, right? But Saquon Barkley's like the one guy who's broken this. I think paying a quarterback a running back who's had injuries, who's later in their career, is usually I'm sorry, but it's usually a bad decision in today's NFL, given where the running back market is. I think though it didn't work out, and though Saquon Barkley might be an outlier, you probably should have paid. I understand the thought, like you can justify the thought process to not pay Saquon. And then on top of that, I think his decision making, and we're going to get a receiver, we're going to build our offensive line. The philosophy and the way he goes about stuff makes sense to me, even if the outcomes have not worked. That being said, so that's one part of it. I think getting rid of Daniel Jones is and not only getting rid of Daniel Jones, but now not trying to win by, if you're really giving Brian Daboll an audition to see if he can be your coach for next year, you would have moved Drew Lock into quarterback and tried to do everything you can to try to win games now. Putting Tommy DeVito there was a signal that, hey, we don't think we can win. We're not even going to try to win. We're going to try to get the best quarterback we can in the draft, and it's probably going to be Brian Daboll coaching. And here's the other part of this. John Mara, the Giants owner, doesn't like to make moves. He's very, very slow to make decisions. He's going to keep Joe Shane. He's going to keep Brian Daboll. They're going to get rid of Daniel Jones, but that's all that's going to happen. I think my prediction for this Giants offseason is coach and GM are going to stay the same. They're just going to go to get a new quarterback.
Yeah, I could see that as well. I do disagree with the fact that Saquon Barkley, you had to pay that guy. I'm sorry. Everyone knows that he was the entirety of that offense. It was only going to be 12 and some change a year. You needed to pay him. I know that there was some dispute about how much it was, and maybe he wanted a little bit more from the Giants actually than Philly. Like, you can point fingers here or there, but the bottom line is you needed to bring him back.
Well, can I say, I think real quick, I think it's worth saying. I don't think he wanted to be there. I think Saquon Barkley, if it was offered the same amount of money to Philly or the Giants, would have gone to Philly either way. You would have had to overpay to keep him in New York. And the way it went about was like, hey, we're going to let him hit the open market, see what offers you get. And I think the Giants assumed they were going to get an opportunity to counter. And Saquon said, I don't want to be there anymore. You let me free and I'm done.
All I know is that Mara told Shane on Hard Knocks, I would hate to see Saquon go to Philly and destroy us twice a year. And that's exactly what happened. And because that happened, if we're pointing fingers, there's one guy to point the finger at, and that is Joe Shane.
Oh, I agree. I guess for consistent thought, I wanted to be very clear. Like at the time, I remember saying like, yeah, it makes sense. I was just wrong. And so was Joe Shane. Here's my thing. I don't think John Mara's got enough of a vindictive bone in his body. He's just such a milquetoast human being.
Billionaire. All the billionaires do, man.
Dude, I hope. I mean, I wouldn't. I'd be entertained by that. I have zero respect for John Mara and his ability to lead an organization and to make important decisions. And the way he goes about every conversation, you've seen him on camera, where he's just so non-combative and like, like it's the same. I'm so unimpressed with John Mara. I can see very clearly a possibility where they keep everyone but Daniel Jones and just keep trying to do it with the same people they've already got.
They very well could. Back to the point you're making about Daboll proving it with Locke, I think they just want the best traffic possible. They already said, Daboll, we know you can do it. You took Daniel Jones to the playoffs once already. We trust you. Okay, now we're just going to get the best pick possible so that you have a selection of really a weaker quarterback class, if we're being honest. Not to hang on this anymore, I do want to have two plot twists, possibly fired coaches. Kyle Shanahan. He could get I don't know if you want to call it the Andy Reid treatment, but you win a lot of games, you get to the playoffs, you get to the divisional championship, you get to your conference championship, and then you just can't get over the hump. And at a certain point, your time is up. I talked about this with Sean McDermott to start the year, and it proved me wrong.
But it's have we hit a ceiling in San Francisco might be the attitude. Yes,
have you hit a ceiling? And he knows it, so it might be a mutual parting of ways, kind of like what's his name, Mike Dunleavy when he took over for Bob Myers as general manager at Golden State. Right? Sometimes things match out. There's going to be a changing in the guard. McCaffrey, Debo, Kittle, Trent Williams, like he's going to leave before it gets too out of hand. And I'm not sure whether
Shanahan could go, whether it's Chicago with Caleb Williams or Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, there are so many fun possibilities of places you could go find a great quarterback and do some really interesting stuff, man.
Yeah, I'm not saying he will, but if they miss the playoffs or say they sneak in the wild card, which is very possible right now.
Yeah.
They get in the wild card and they lose in the first round. You don't feel super great about that team. Again, defensively, they're struggling. They're struggling to score in the red zone. It seems like teams have figured out what Kyle does and doesn't want to call in the red zone to make that tough. So we'll see. And then the next guy, Sirianni. I know that the Eagles are trending up right now, but he just gets so much bad press, and it's hard with the Philly media. But if they lose the division to the Commanders, or say they win the division but they lose in the first round of the playoffs, he could be on the way out.
Yeah, Nick Sirianni's got a tenuous position right now.
Yeah, he's not on the hot seat, but he's certainly got a short leash.
If the playoffs were today, Philly would play Washington in the first round.
Interesting. And they body bagged him. I'm not going to say I told you so. That was a big personnel difference. Veterans, short week. Philly was definitely the side, but that second matchup, we'll have to see what kind of adjustments Dan Quinn and company make.
I want to go backwards to something you said. I just kind of, maybe we're hitting us over the head too much, but I think just to maybe say this one last time, if anyone survives in New York between coach, quarterback, GM, it's going to be Daboll. GM and quarterback could get outed, and they might keep Daboll. I mean, they might get rid of all three, but he's the last guy I think you get rid of those three, in my opinion.
Yeah, you could argue that. I mean, honestly, Joe Shane hasn't built a bad roster. They're just really bad in the positions that count. Their O-line, not great, and your quarterback, not great. And that really hurts.
Well, like the Brian Burns move was cool. Kayvon Thibodeau, like they're trying. It's just, you're right. Key positions that are more important in the NFL are where they're really bad.
Yeah, I just don't know if I would use my first round pick for, a cherry on top defensive guy. No disrespect to Brian Burns, but that wasn't the first thing that needed to be addressed.
Yeah. I don't know. He's got 6 sacks in how many weeks? 11?
11. Maybe they had a buy in there, yeah.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great at all. Let's talk about the NFC West, and then we'll end with the Lions. Right now, so you were at a game on Sunday. You went and saw 49ers Seahawks. That had a really fun ending. Geno Smith had a touchdown with like 12 seconds left.
It was
Before
crazy.
we get into the NFC West in general, just tell me your thoughts about the game. Where did you sit? Do you have any good food? How was the game in San Francisco? I guess in Santa Clara. Santa Barbara? Santa Clara.
Yeah, Santa Clara. The barbecue burger is where I was going with the B sound. Barbecue burger, absolutely fantastic. Get some tater tots. Get yourself a Michelob Ultra, whatever your drink of choice is.
That's what I had at Texas Roadhouse, by the way, Michelob Ultra.
Or there's a guy tailgating outside the gates. He's got Modelo's for $5.
Oh.
Inside the stadium, you're paying 15 plus. So you have a few, you relax, you keep it going.
Remind me what a Modelo actually is. That another light beer like a Heineken or a Michelob Ultra type?
It's more in line with like a Corona or a Pacifico.
Oh yeah, it's that okay, you're right. Yep. I can see the bottle now in my head and the color.
Yeah,
of the beer.
we were kind of in the southeast, not quite in zone, but not quite corner. Mm-hmm. Somewhere probably in between the 10 to 20 yard line. Up there a little bit. And so the touchdown, that game-winning touchdown from Geno actually happened on the opposite side of us. But both of his big runs, you just kind of see the gap open and you're like, oh my God, he's taking it. Oh my gosh, he's still going. Oh, he's going to make it. And then he scores and you look up at the clock and you're like, there's only 15 seconds. This is crazy. And I've been in some quiet stadiums, but that was everyone was just shocked. Everyone felt so confident the Niners were going to pull that game out. And then that happened. And then you talk about the 2 catches, Jackson Smith and Jigba on the sideline, DK Metcalf on the sideline. Were they in? Were they out? Both of them looked really questionable. I thought DK was out for sure. And I said that as soon as he was headed towards the sideline. I'm like, oh, he didn't get both feet down. I don't know. It was just a really weird game. The stadium energy was weird. It never seemed like the Niners had a flow offensively. I'm sure that everything that came across on TV was exactly what we saw, in stadium. The Niners just not in a rhythm. The Seahawks look like they're fighting hard and doing a lot of things, but they really weren't making much happen. And then all of a sudden, last drive, it gets put together and Geno takes over. So really incredible experience. Levi Stadium's awesome. Saw an old friend of mine who's in my fantasy football league. It was a gift from my fiance for my birthday. So just the whole thing, tailgating on the way down on the Caltrain. It was just a great day.
If the playoffs started today, Arizona would be the number 3 seed in the NFC. And in that division right now, the NFC West, Arizona's got a lead. They've got a 6-4 record. The Rams are 5-5. The Seahawks are 5-5. And the 49ers are 5-5. So it's all really close. But right now, standing alone at the top is the Arizona Cardinals. And I didn't see that coming, man. I know it's all really close and interesting, but
yeah,
the Rams, I don't know. I've been waiting for them. It hasn't really happened. But the 49ers are the team that we thought was the clear favorite to win this division. And they have really... Now, look, a couple games go their way. It's more like 8-2 instead of 5-5. So they're really it's a close swing, the difference between 5-5 and 8-2. But I'm disappointed with what the 49ers are right now. I don't know what you make of that. I don't know what the attitude is in San Francisco where you live, but talk to me about that.
Just the 2 big things are inefficiency in the red zone, not scoring touchdowns and or turning it over in the red zone, and then inconsistency on the defensive side of the football. Since Robert Saleh left the building, since DeMeco Ryans left the building, they haven't been able to find a defensive coordinator that's been able to maximize and utilize this talent. And maybe Robert Saleh just is that good because we're seeing now what's happening in New York simply with him not being in the building. Yeah. But yeah, those are the things. It's inefficiency in the red zone. I thought that was going to be resolved with Christian McCaffrey back. You open up that playbook, but then all of a sudden George Kittle's missing. Another part of your weapon or another one of your red zone weapons. So it's just been a really tumultuous year for them. where none of the stars have even gotten close to aligning for them to play a solid game. Not just to win a game that they shouldn't, just to win a game clean and cut, and look sharp and feel good. Inefficiency in the red zone and inability to play consistent defense.
The worst thing about this is they're about to have to pay Brock Purdy. And he's overwhelmingly okay. It's like, he's not horrible.
I can't give him anything over 35. I can't.
And that's expensive for his level of play, in my opinion.
That's expensive. And early this year, I was looking at Brock. I was like, they aren't really winning, but like he looks okay. And then I feel like there's been this slow regression in his performance. And I see him starting to force things more. I see him not having the vision and decision making that we loved from him over the past couple of years that have made us been like, wow, like this guy can really operate the offense. And I don't know if that's a symptom of losing and just, again, trying to do too much and make that extra play when you don't need to. But again, like you couldn't close out the Cowboys very strong, couldn't close out the Chiefs. Cardinals were able to come back on you. And really your only confident win is against the Patriots. And that's about it this year.
Here's the really rough thing for the 49ers. And I think that Brock Purdy probably needs to recenter. Actually, maybe some of what Patrick Mahomes needs to do, which is get back to what you do well. Play within your offense, be really sharp. Retreat. But here's the problem. Here are the next couple of games, and really here through the end of the year for the 49ers. Here are the quarterbacks they play. Jordan Love, Josh Allen, Caleb Williams, Matthew Stafford, Tua, Jared Goff, and Kyler Murray. There's only one game where maybe they've got a better quarterback. Maybe it's Tua, probably actually Tua or Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
and I don't think Brock Purdy's head and shoulders better than Tua or Caleb Williams, and so I think from here on the rest of the year they've got a worse quarterback in every game, if not almost every game they play, and that's a problem. The way Tua looked, these last 2 weeks, I feel pretty good about him being better than Brock Purdy. Sure, that's what I said. You get one, but is he? If it's even a question, that's scary. And he's a he's a top 20 quarterback in the NFL, I guess. Yeah. Brock Purdy is, but you can't pay the 20th best quarterback in football. And you're not going to win with that either.
Yeah,
and that's kind of where he's at right now.
And it's amazing that at this point last year, we were talking about him as an MVP candidate. And to see, again, the regression that the team has had this year, again, they've had a lot of coaches and coordinator changes, outside of Kyle Shanahan that have happened. They've had just so many injuries, and not cluster injuries where everybody's out, but it's just somebody's always missing. They're not quite always at full strength. And that can be really, really hard when you're installing plays and you're like, oh shit, well now this guy's out. And you don't really get that clean moment. So it's been a tough year for them. One of the ones that certainly makes you look in the mirror and say, do we have the right coach? Do we have the right quarterback? And back to the plot twist later, it could be a nice goodbye for Kyle Shanahan. And then maybe the Niners are looking for their next quarterback.
Dude, a couple of things. Robert Saleh would do wonders for this defense. So that's number one.
I mean, he could. What rules out him coming back? As a defensive coordinator.
But also, if you do first, I don't think they're going to part ways with Kyle Shanahan. I almost wonder if Kyle Shanahan would look. They've hit a wall in San Francisco. They haven't won a Super Bowl. They're going to have to pay Brock Purdy. Do you want to be coach of the 49ers, actually? Like, for real? Are you not better off going to coach Trevor Lawrence?
You said it earlier, the Bears would be kind of sick.
Dude, either one of those options. Like
the Bears would be sick.
That's a home run, right? And I look, if the Bears could hire, which would be really funny, Shanahan playing Matt LaFleur.
Shanahan and Saleh.
Dude, I mean, and what would Saleh do with that Bears defense, by the way? Like that's, and I don't even think you got to fire Kyle Shanahan. Is it possible he just goes, I'm out? Like, I don't.
Yeah. I wonder what his contract looks like and if you're allowed to do that. Because obviously Sean Payton had to be traded to the Broncos. I'm curious what that would look like. I'd spend a first round pick on getting Kyle Shanahan in there.
Dude, if you're the Bears,
no doubt.
And you can't waste the, and look, all Kyle Shanahan's got to say is, I'm either not going to coach or you're going to trade me. And then he's got all the power. You can't force the guy to be your head coach.
Yeah.
all right, I'll sit out this year. And you're like, so you could, that theoretically, that move could happen. And
Man,
Kyle Shanahan coaching the Bears with Robert Saleh as defensive coordinator is a home. And by the way, how interesting would that NFC North be, which is already really crazy good? Sam Darnold and the Vikings with, Kevin O'Connell, and then you've got Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love, and you got Jared Goff, Dan Campbell, and the Lions, and then you'd have Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh, and Caleb Williams in Chicago. It would be unbelievable television.
Hey, if that happens, heard it here first.
They're going to... Here's what happens, dude. We do that all the time, and no one ever... Like, I for real have broken... I was the first... I know this is going to sound really like too man hornish, but I remember back when Joe Burrow was heading to the Bengals, was going to be their first overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
I was absolutely the first person to say, like, he should tell the Bengals no. Now, by the way, that didn't work out. But about a week and a half after I said that on my show, every national show said that. And I was like, okay, producers, I see where you're getting your content.
Somebody's out there scraping, looking for it.
Absolutely. It's so irritating.
I just tweet it now, so it goes. So then we definitely have it.
Can we end the show with the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, let's, man. Talk about cherries on top, Detroit Lions.
So the Lions beat the Jaguars 52-6, and that's all really cool and interesting. We'll talk about that. But Jared Goff did it again. He was 24 for 29, 412 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks, nothing. No turnovers, was barely touched all game. He looked incredible. It looked like Ohio State or Alabama back in the old days when their quarterback would go an entire game, like the AJ McCarron Alabama teams where the quarterback never got touched. And you're like, geez, are they ever going to, you're playing New Mexico State and this is just not fair. It looked like New Mexico State, Alabama. It was crazy. And I really am curious what you have to say here, but it was just a dominating performance by the 9-1 Detroit Lions, who look like the clear and far away Super Bowl favorite, which is so cool to be able to say.
Yep, they are now my Super Bowl favorites. With the Kansas City loss, just kind of confirms what we know. They're not entirely strong. But again, the Lions, last week, you have a scare. You're turning the ball over. You don't know which way is up, which way is down, but you find a way to win. And then you bounce back the next week and just deliver the cleanest, most calculated, diabolical offensive explosion we've seen this year. That was special to see. Was it against the Jags? Sure. But you went out there and you did it. You did it in front of your home crowd. You said, hey, last week, yeah, it was rough, but the boys are still here. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god, 11 catches. How many yards? 161 yards, 2 touchdowns. Love that. Jameson Williams, who'd been missing the past couple weeks due to substances, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
He was back. That was huge. And then obviously you've got the two-headed monster of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Wow.
Yeah, they win last week, and Jared Goff having 5 picks, and I think the context matters. She followed up with just a flawless performance. I mean,
I hate to put this kind of jinx on them, but they might be like the clear Super Bowl favorites. Like Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, whoever makes it out of the AFC.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It could be a 52-6 type game.
Barring injury.
Defense, yes, barring injury. And this defense, again, man, I know it was just the Jags. I know it was Mac Jones, but they continue to show up and make plays, which has not been a characteristic of these Dan Campbell Lions teams. You got a great defense to accompany that offense. Watch the F out.
What's really crazy, it's possible Aiden Hutchinson could be back for the Super Bowl. I don't know that that's realistic, but it's being talked about as a possibility with his rehab timeline.
That would be insane. I'd be happy for him just so that he can say that he played in the Super Bowl. I don't want to make too crazy of a comparison. He might get some Make-A-Wish snaps, but it would be a lot to ask for him to be back for the Super Bowl timeline. But Aiden Hutchinson's the guy to be like, oh, I'm going to be back for it. It'd be crazy to see, and it'd be amazing, but probably for the health and longevity of his future, probably not a good idea.
Well, think about where it's coming from. It's coming from probably him in rehab, right? And when you're rehabbing, you need you've been really badly injured. Like, you need some kind of motivation when you're in rehab and going to PT every day. And like that, I'm going to get back for the Super Bowl, whatever the exercise is doing. Like, that's the thing that gets you motivated to do the little things right it requires to get healthy again. And if that's his motivation, even whether it works or not, it's brilliant for him.
Brilliant.
But I agree. It may not matter who. How amazing would it be if the Lions win a Super Bowl? Like by the way, Molly's a Lions fan. She goes, rawr. That's like her little thing. And it's so dumb. Yeah. But she like would love to see loves Hard Knocks, loves Dan Campbell. I think it'd be so fun to watch this team win a Super Bowl. It would be just incredible.
I would love to see them win the Super Bowl. The trauma that they've been through, this incredible rise, this team that's sticking together like glue. That's the brotherly love, not Philly. It's living right in Detroit.
How about the redemption arc for Jared Goff, too, who got cast aside by the Rams and no one seemed to want? And for him to follow up and turn his career into what it's become is just like really, really special.
Yeah, it is. And I'm trying to remember, who was the passing game coordinator for Jared Goff when he was with the Rams?
It was Shane Waldron.
Yeah, exactly. So whose fault really was it? You let me know. But yeah, what an arc for Jared Goff. You go and you make a winner where Matt Stafford couldn't. For him to be able to kind of complete that circle, get the Super Bowl, be able to say, hey, Sean McVay, like, I did it too. That'd be really awesome.
I think the thing we touched on, like the little best nugget of the show today, is the idea, does Kyle Shanahan want to be in San Francisco? Like, is that in his best interest to be the head coach of the 49ers next year? We got to pay Brock Purdy. The team around Brock Purdy is aging. McCaffrey's been injured. George Kittle's not getting any older. Brandon Ayuk's been injured. Deebo Samuel's getting older. The core is getting older. We're about to lose Trent Williams, who's going to retire. Like, I don't know that the future is necessarily bright in San Francisco. The end is near, and is that a place you want to be? And by the way, Kyle Shanahan, say what you want, he has never had a special quarterback his entire time in San Francisco. It's just never happened. The best quarterback he's ever had was his backup, Sam Darnold, probably, to be honest, like for real. And and to go from Jimmy Garoppolo to Brock Purdy is such a shameful waste of a career. It's actually, again, we've talked about the parallels between Andy Reid in Philly and Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, but Andy Reid, I see what you want about Donovan McNabb. He never really had a special one, truly, until he got Patrick Mahomes. And I'm just curious, if you gave Shanahan a Mahomes-esque, one of those really, truly special quarterbacks, what would happen? Whether that's Caleb Williams in Chicago or Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, is it not a better move for his career trajectory to just say, hey, it's been fun, I'm out, I want a great quarterback, and I want to be in a different situation?
Yeah, that could very much be the case. And they tried to make that happen with Trey Lance. They thought that he was going to be that game-changing guy, and that obviously didn't work out. And Dallas isn't even messing around, taking a chance with it. So it tells you really the truth that there just wasn't anything there. So yeah, time might be up. There's still a lot of coaching left in him, but yeah, like things might be on the decline in San Francisco. Maybe we're overreacting. Maybe they have some crazy, comeback the second half of the season, but bottom line is, like we talked about, there's a lot of injuries on this team consistently. You got to start paying people a lot of money. A few guys are going to retire here soon. Like a guy like Kittle, like how much longer can he keep going, sustaining all these injuries, being available for the team, and not have that Super Bowl win? So I'm not sure how much longer you can keep the core together financially. And then again, Brock Purdy's not the guy that gets you over the hump.
Your left tackle, Trent Williams, is 36 years old. Like that's all you need to know, man. Like that the dominoes are about to fall in San Francisco. And that's a really talented coach to be wasted on a bad football team. And here's the thing. Whatever his let's look up his contract, right? Because what's going to happen if he stays is they're going to be bad for another couple of years, and then he's going to get fired and go somewhere. Like, why waste that? Why go through all that, the years of suck? Why not just say, look, we're not going to work and I'm out? Because I really think they're headed towards, a bad couple of years, whether he stays or not. And I just think you could be somewhere else and not waste years of your life and years of your career.
Yeah, Chicago and Jacksonville sound pretty sweet.
He signed through the 2025 season.
Okay, yeah. So it's not impossible for him to find a way to wiggle out of that. If it's just 1 year. Yeah. Not impossible.
Yeah. That you said something, I don't think it was really fascinating to me. The Cowboys are dog shit. They're terrible, right?
Yeah.
And despite being as bad as they are, you're right. They haven't even given a thought to Trey Lance.
No, not at
all. That's bad.
You're telling me Cooper Rush is all you want to see? Like, why not throw him out there? But again, teach their own.
Tank for something. I don't know. There's always a good reason to have a good first round pick. I don't know. You're right. Why not put Trey Lance out there at this point?
Why not? Show him off. See what he's got. Maybe something clicks for him this, second, third time around. You never know. But
if you're terrible, you have a better draft pick. You really can't lose, honestly, with that move.
I know exactly what I've got in Cooper Rush. We've seen it for a number of years now. But Trey Lance,
Let's find out. Let's find out what we have.
On next week's episode of Dallas Cowboys taking another loss.
Yeah. Sorry, that's all Cowboys I got, man. You got anything else you want to talk about?
No. Oh, actually, one more note. I found it interesting with the Chiefs. I'm not sure if this was script related, but D-Hop only played 47% of the offensive snaps. And I know that Juju came back, and it sounds like, D-Hop snaps came from Juju. I don't want to get into anything, but I just thought that was interesting.
It's odd. It's an odd reality.
Yeah. Anyways, that's all I got.
To me. No, it's weird. Yeah, man. Hey, great job today. I love you. I appreciate you. You know what we should do? It's very important we actually do this. I didn't think about this at all.
Like next week.
We should look ahead to next week. Like Indiana plays at Ohio State. Number 5 Indiana, 10-0 plays at number 2 Ohio State. Saturday, 9 a.m. West Coast time. That's incredible. Can't wait for that. I think in college, that's the only game that's really that exciting, to be honest. Let's see if I'm wrong. I'm scrolling. Unless you want to watch Washington State, Oregon State. I think that's the game in college football next weekend.
Are we serious? That's all we got?
Yeah, I think it's we're heading into, it's like the week before everyone plays their big game with all like Thanksgiving SEC coming
guys,
up. And
all the SEC guys probably have a patsy.
Yeah, because they're getting ready for their rivalry week game. Thursday night football, it's another chance to watch my Steelers. They play the Browns, 8-2 Steelers at the 2-8 Cleveland Browns. I love that game. Can't wait to watch it, and I can't wait to watch my team win. Special friend of mine is going to make shepherd's pie for dinner, and so shepherd's pie and the Steelers going to be very, very happy, man, on Thursday.
Delicious.
You look around the rest of the NFL, Lions Colts is interesting just because I like Anthony Richardson. He came back and beat the Jets this weekend, and they're going to get steamrolled probably by the Lions, but it'll be fun to watch that game regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Vikings Bears is, I don't know. I try to get excited about Bears games now, but it's really hard for me. I want to.
It's hard. And it's
what stands out to you about next week as you look at next week's schedule?
Lions Colts is actually interesting to me. Just given the way Anthony Richardson played this last weekend, able to escape with a win, granted against the Jets. I'm curious how they do against the Lions. Like maybe, again, just sitting for a couple games allowed them to, see some things. Cardinals Seahawks is very interesting to me. And then Eagles Rams. I just feel like we don't know what Rams team we're going to get week to week. Sometimes they look amazing. Sometimes they don't. A lot of it hinges on the defense and Matt Stafford, so that's kind of interesting. And then Ravens Chargers. I want to see how legit this Chargers defense is.
Yeah, what do you want to do? Because you'll be in town. We could either watch it together and record afterward, or we could record most of the episode Sunday and then record a hit after Monday Night Football if you want. It's kind of an interesting idea, actually, to get most of the show done and then do like another follow-up on Monday or something like that.
Yeah, let's catch up on that. I know my parents, sorry to call you guys out, don't have good Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So I might have a tough time getting the stream up in there. But we'll chat that one out. We'll figure it out.
A lot of teams have bye weeks. The Falcons, the Bills, the Bengals, the Saints, the Jets, the Jaguars. It's a very heavy week of teams not playing. Really, honestly, like Sunday Night Football is interesting. It's Eagles, Rams. I'm not that excited about it, but it is still probably a good matchup. It's a test for the Rams. And then Monday Night Football is Ravens at Chargers. That's a 7-4 Ravens team against a 7-3 Chargers team. It's really not a great week of football. Again, it's another, we're in the doldrums, the middle of the year. Teams have bye weeks. We're kind of setting up for what's going to be a home stretch of incredible November and December games with that Thanksgiving weekend coming up.
It's going to be so good.
Leading into the final stretch and then Christmas in January. So It's one of those middling weeks where we're like, everyone's kind of in a holding pattern. Like Kansas City's big game this week is the Carolina Panthers. It's like, all right. I'm not that pumped about that.
They need it. But hear me out. Christmas Day games, Netflix. If you mess that up for me, the way you mess up the Tyson fight, I will cancel my subscription so fast if you mess up Christmas Day football for me. It's not even a thing before, but you're giving it to me. And if you mess it up, I'll never forgive you.
How could it go badly? Like you got Chiefs Steelers, 10 a.m. on Netflix, and then at 1:30 you got Texans Ravens.
Poor stream quality, Netflix... pausing, stopping, bad buffering. Like if the quality of the production isn't up to your favorite Amazon Prime games, then I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose my cool. Also, if they don't have the right cameras, the right camera angles, if they don't have the right people working the desk, I'm not even sure who's on the desk and who the sideline reporters are. If everything is not clean and ready to go, I'm going to be furious.
That's an interesting wrinkle. I hadn't thought about that. Like, who the hell is the broadcaster for a Netflix NFL game? I have no idea.
ESPN's it would have to be people from the NFL network. There's no way that ESPN, ABC, CBS, NBC, there's no way that they're letting their guys, be on that game.
Okay, here it is. The broadcasting crew is, come on, I got to pop up. I don't want it. Ian Eagle, JJ Watt, and Nate Burleson.
What are we doing?
And then Noah Eagle will be joined by Greg Olsen for the Texans-Ravens game.
I don't mind Greg. I don't
like Nate Burleson that much.
He's horrible.
And JJ Watt, love him, but he's not a he's not a color commentator live with NFL games. So
no.
Ian Eagle's great, but can we pair Ian Eagle with, I don't know, someone who knows? Dude, steal Kirk Herbstreit. I'm sure he'd happy to take another paycheck. Seems like he's always everywhere.
Kirk is that man eats during football season, him and his dog.
Well, the problem though, rest in peace, is his dog. Who wants to work on Christmas is another tough sell. Like, you got to pay me a lot of money to not hang out with my family on Christmas.
That check's got to be real big, and I'll bet you it is.
Yeah.
Maybe we should give him a call. Say, hey, I know a couple of guys.
Well,
I would do it.
Talent scout. Oh, dude,
I would do it.
Well, of course we would do it. Like, sorry, family. I'll pay. You don't have to. Here's the thing, Netflix. You want to save some coin? Don't pay me. Fly me out. Put me up. I'll do it for free. I don't care. You've got leverage. I'd be happy to be there.
I don't ask for a lot. Food,
have a lot of fun.
I don't even need a continental breakfast. Okay, that's fine. I'll just eat at the buffet at the stadium.
I just need a coastal breakfast. I don't need to be all intercontinental. I just want one solid coast for the breakfast.
I gotta have the waffle maker. I gotta have the waffle maker. I gotta have yogurt, some fresh fruit, a couple of eggs, and bacon. That's it. That's all you need.
I will say, this conference I went to last week, breakfast fucking horrible. It was toast and yogurt, which, like, good things certainly, but not what I want but the lunch was amazing. Like, the catered lunch was like, now we're cooking with gas. But I think breakfast was like supplied by the hotel or something. It was fucking bad. I was like, this is not, wasn't good. Anyway, I rest my case. I love you, man. I think if you want, we could get away with recording Sunday, just because I really think probably the biggest game of the weekend actually is Ohio State, Indiana. And the sooner we can pounce on that, probably the better. So food for thought there. We'll have a conversation behind the scenes, figure out what we want to do. But I want to share with the audience, that's a potential option that I would be open to. Because I can cover Monday Night Football by myself, or you can come watch it with me and like record a 20-minute video about just that game with bad camera angles, and I don't care. It'd be kind of fun. So we've got a lot of options for next week, and I think we can explore all of them in conversation after the show.
We'll figure it out.
Cool, man. I love you, dude. Great job today. And
love you, brother.
Bam, we are done.